जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जयो कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय निताय गौरंग जय निताय गौरंग निताय गौरंग जय निताय गौरंग जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto 8th chapter text number 6. Please repeat after me. त्वं हि ब्रह्मविदां श्रेष्ठः त्वं हि ब्रह्मविदां श्रेष्ठः संस्कारान् कर्तुमर्हसि संस्कारान् कर्तुमर्हसि बालयोरनयोर्नृणाम् बालयोरनयोर्नृणाम् जन्मा ब्राह्मणो गुरुः जन्मना ब्राह्मणो गुरुः त्वं हि ब्रह्मविदां श्रेष्ठः संस्कारान् कर्तुमर्हसि Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shrestha Samskaran Kartumarhasi Balayor Anayor Nrunam Janmana Brahmano Guruhu Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shrestha Samskaran Kartumarhasi Balayor Anayor Nrunam Janmana Brahmano Guruhu Tvam hi Brahma Vidam Shrestha Samskaran Kartumarhasi Balayor Anayor Runam Janmana Brahmano Guruhu. Word to word translation. Tvam, your holiness. He, indeed, Brahma Vidam, of all Brahmanas, a persons who understand what is Brahman. Brahma Janati iti Brahmanaha. Shreshtaha, you are the best. Samskaran, ceremonies performed for reformation. Because by these reformatory activities, one takes one's second birth. Samskarat bhaved vijaha kartum arhasi. Because you have kindly come here, kindly execute Balayoho, of these two sons, Krishna and Balarama, Anayoho, of both of them, Runam, not only of them, but of all human society. Janmana, as soon as he takes birth. Brahmanaha, immediately the Brahmana becomes. Guruhu, the guide. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Please repeat after me. My Lord, you are the best of the Brahmanas, especially because you are fully aware of the Jyotish Shastra, the astrological signs. Therefore, you are naturally the spiritual master of every human being. This being so, since you have kindly come to my house, kindly execute the reformatory activities for my two sons. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chatur Varanyam Maya Shrushtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. The four Varnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, must be present in society. The Brahmanas are required for the guidance of the whole society. If there is no such institution as Varnashrama Dharma, and if human society has no such guide as the Brahmana, human society will be hellish. In Kali Yuga, especially at the present moment, there is no such thing as a real Brahmana. And therefore, society is in a chaotic condition. Formerly, there were qualified Brahmanas, but at present, although there are certainly persons who think themselves Brahmanas, they actually have no ability to guide society. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very much eager to reintroduce the Varnashrama system into human society, so that those who are bewildered or less intelligent will be able to take guidance from qualified Brahmanas. Brahmana means Vaishnava. After one becomes a Brahmana, the next stage of development in human society is to become a Vaishnava. People in general must be guided to the destination or goal of life, and therefore they must understand Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The whole system of Vedic knowledge is based on this principle, but people have lost the clue. Rate vidu swartha gatim hi Vishnu. Srimad Bhagavatam 7:531. And they are simply pursuing sense gratification with the risk of gliding down to a lower grade of life. Mrityu samsara vartmani. It doesn't matter whether one is born a Brahmana or not. No one is born a Brahmana. Everyone is born a Shudra. But by the guidance of a Brahmana and by samskara, one can become Dvija, twice born, and then gradually become a Brahmana. Brahmanism is not a system meant to create a monopoly for a particular class of men. Everyone should be educated so as to become a Brahmana. At least there must be an opportunity to allow everyone to attain the destination of life. Regardless of whether one is born in a Brahmana family, a Kshatriya family, or a Shudra family, one may be guided by a proper Brahmana and be promoted to the highest platform of being a Vaishnava. Thus, the Krishna consciousness movement affords an opportunity to develop the right destiny for human society. Nanda Maharaj took advantage of the opportunity of Garga Muni's presence by requesting him to perform the necessary reformatory activities for his sons to guide them toward the destination of life. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Agnana Timirandasya Gnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Itinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Pashyata Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktarunda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. In 1977, when Srila Prabhupada was already not keeping too well, he very persistently and consistently kept reiterating one point. It began on a morning walk in Mayapur on February 14th, 1977. Anybody wants to say, what is that Prabhupada? Prabhupada is saying, 50% of my work is not complete. 50% is done by establishing temples, but the other 50% is to establish Varnashrama Dharma. In fact, the last trip that he took, world trip, he set out first to London with the explicit intention of, I'm going to go to all my farming communities so that we can establish Varnashrama. Unfortunately, his Prabhupada's health would not support that, and so he had to return back from London. But that was something that Prabhupada was very, very eager to establish. And in this verse also you can see in the purport, it is so important to have a Varnashrama system. In this context, in the conversations between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, first the conversation begins like, what is most important for the human society? Right? And Ramananda Rai, what does he say? Establishment, like the Varnashrama system is the most important thing for human society. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Yehi Bahya Raya. He says, Ramananda Raya, this is Bahya, this is external. What is higher than that? And then he goes on to establish the higher levels of consciousness. So, yes, it is important that that we have to become Vaishnavas, we have to become Gopi, Bhartahu, Pada, Kamala, Yor, Dasa, Dasana, Dasaha. Yes, we have to get there. That is our aspiration. That is why we are all working so hard. But we have to understand where we are starting from. And establishing a Daivi Varnashrama system is an important aspect of getting to that point. There is, in the same day, there was a lot of conversation on this that happened, extended periods of time. Where Prabhupada is telling, I'll just read a few things from that conversation. Prabhupada was actually lamenting that we are giving Brahman initiation to so many people, but then they're all falling down. Right? This is a very long conversation. Let's see here. introduce starting with ISKCON community. Yes, Brahmana, Kshatriyas, there must be regular education. But in our community, if the being we are training up as Vaishnavas, yes, then how will we be able to make divisions in our society? Prabhupada. Vaishnava is not so easy. The Varnashrama Dharma must be established to become a Vaishnava. It is not so easy to become Vaishnava. Harishori. No, it is not a cheap thing. Yes, therefore this should be made. Vaishnava, to become a Vaishnava is not easy. If Vaishnava to become Vaishnava is so easy, then why so many fall down? Fall down? It is not easy. The sannyas is for the highest qualified Brahmana. And simply by dressing like a Vaishnava, that is fall down. Harishori. So the Varnashrama system is like for the Kanishtas, Kanishta Adhikari, Kanishta. Harishori. When one is only on the platform of neophyte. Yes, Kanishta Adhikari, yes. Then it goes on to talk about this thing. So, it was very, very, very dear thing to Srila Prabhupada. Let us understand some very fundamental things on this. The most critical thing is this is not by birth, right? It is not at all by birth. Which are some very stark examples of that in our Gaudiya Vaishnava history. Haridas Thakur is the number one example, right? He is the Namacharya, the Acharya of the holy name. It's like very, very high position. And he comes from a Muslim family. So, he is not even in the Vedic Varnashrama system itself. So, it is not at all by birth, but it is by Guna and Karma, by the qualities of the person and the activities of the person. Like that's very critical. And another important thing is that Prabhupada, in this conversation, it's very interesting, you should spend some time to read this. He's saying that everyone can reach perfection in this lifetime. It is not that, let's say one has a Vaishya, a Kshatriya, or even for that matter, a Shudra, Guna and Karma. It is not that, next life you have to become a Brahmana and then you will go back to Godhead. In any of the Varnas, by practicing, serving the Supreme Lord and making that as the focus of our life, we can go back to Godhead. Right? So we saw that it is not by birth, and examples are Haridas Thakur, even for that matter, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. Both of them, though they were born in a Brahminical family, because they were serving the Muslim kings, for all practical purposes, they were considered as outcasts. But they became the most prominent acharyas who codified the Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. There are even Ramananda Raya. He was not a Brahmana, he was a Kshatriya. So the list is endless in our Siddhanta. Another interesting thing, anybody remembers who is supposed to be a Dvija or twice born, second initiation? Not just Brahmanas. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. All three are supposed to get it's only the Shudras that it is not like it's not like a common practice for them to have a second initiation, a Dvija. That is an old Vedic tradition. Another interesting thing in that very same conversation, Prabhupada says, so how do we introduce this in our society? Like, how does it work? This thing. Prabhupada gives the example. You see, during those days, when first the Lotus building, if you been to Mayapur, the real long building, it's called the Lotus building. That's where Prabhupada's quarters were. When Prabhupada first moved to his quarters, how those days construction work in India was very, very difficult. They couldn't even if you had the money, you couldn't buy cement and steel. They were actually restricted. So there was so many hoops they had to jump to just keep basic construction activity going. So when Prabhupada was supposed to visit, they couldn't get the whole building ready. But he was there and he said, I want to use my room. They had to use the room. And so they somehow set it up. In fact, Prabhupada used to always tell, it seems, it's every place I go, all my rooms are always smelling of fresh paint. Because they will all be working 24/7, just the previous days painting the whole place. In one of the temples in Europe, they just got everything ready. And Prabhupada asked, is everything okay? Can I stay in this room? Yes, Prabhupada, everything is ready. And that first same day, in the evening, there was a loud sound from the bathroom. They go there, they have glass separators. In those days also it looks like they had in Europe. That whole separator just fell down because they just fixed it like that. That it fell down and shattered all over the bathroom. And they, last minute they had to do this. So in Mayapur, they had the bathroom ready, but the bathroom had no plumbing. Meaning the toilet was there, water was there. You pour the water, it doesn't go anywhere. There is no connection from that to the sewage system. And so there were two key leaders in that place, Bhavananda Maharaj and Jayapatak Maharaj. Bhavananda Maharaj had the service of emptying the sewage toilet from Prabhupada's this thing. So Prabhupada recollects that, just like you see, last time I came to Mayapur, Bhavananda Maharaj took out the sewage from my bathroom. That doesn't mean to say he's a Shudra. But he is doing the work that is needed at that time. So there was this discussion of, in the Daivi Varnashrama system, different devotees will play different roles for a particular situation. But it is very important that each of us understand our primary Varna. Because what happens, it is many places, there are mainly two verses that are repeated sort of verbatim in the Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhava mad bhakta. That verse is almost exactly repeated 2 times in the Gita. The only other verse that is repeated is the verse that talks about doing your own duty. One should do your own duty, not do the duty of others. So, it is so important. It is said that one should understand what is our natural calling, what is our natural varna, and develop our qualities and specialization in that particular varna, so that we can very peacefully and naturally do service that is very suited for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. So this was a a very important principle that Srila Prabhupada kept stressing multiple times in his this thing, especially in the last few days. I'll ask a question. How many of you here feel very confident you know what your Varna is? Let's see, let's raise your hands. What? Nobody knows, huh? Are you really? I don't think you should go to that extent also. Like default Shudra, everybody is Shudra, like that. That's but there is a Varna that inherently is sort of driving you. Nobody knows what your Varna is. At least, huh? Morning way Brahma. Once we log in. No, I would say, again, this is a very important thing that is necessary both for us and for our children as well. If you do not know what is your primary Varna, it is very difficult for you to understand where to focus. And you should get very comfortable, in what your this thing is. For example, my base Varna is a Kshatriya. I have no doubt about it at all. And there are, it's just the Lord's mercy or the situation that, if you hear Madhapada Prabhu's lectures, he keeps saying that, a temple president's duty is a Kshatriya duty in a society. It so happens that, I was grateful to be given that service, at least this part of my life. And so, it's like for example, in the Mahabharata, when there's discussion of, peace settlement between the Pandavas and Kauravas. Like, what was the last offer that was made? Just give us 5 villages. Because they are Kshatriyas. They have to rule over something. It's such a vast kingdom. What is some 5 villages? Right? So that was the only thing they were asking, saying, please give us 5 villages so that we will just go and do our duties. Right? And that is when Duryodhana, he is telling, I won't give enough land. When you can put 5 pins of 5 the pin of a needle, right? That much space also won't give you. So it is a very important aspect that we really need to understand what our base Varna is. Because what happens is, it helps you to understand Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. It helps you to understand that, how do I take advantage of that? It's actually an advantage for every single Varna that a person is used to. And you become comfortable, because the most important thing is, each and every one of the Varnas can go back to God in this lifetime. It is not that artificially we try to be something we are not, and then we struggle and then we get frustrated. Oh, why I don't have this? Why can't I do this? This is not what you are meant to do. In certain situations, each of us might play different roles. But we should go back naturally to what is suitable for us and try to go deeper into how I can use my Varna for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. That is the most important thing. It is also important for children also to understand this as they're thinking about, what is my career, what is my, what am I going to go do, and all that. Because otherwise what happens, the society, everybody is like, everybody should become a engineer or a doctor. Right? Isn't that what, when we were all growing up, there was not even a second option, but a third option, I guess. Like, you have to become one of these, otherwise your life is a failure. But the reality is that there are all different, Varnas in a society. And each one of them has a role to play. Each one of them has a contribution to society. Right? And even in the modern, so-called modern civilization, with all the messed up system we have created, even within, I keep saying, even within, you're working for a tech company. A tech company has all the four Varnas. You must be able to identify those. Right? A big tech company, like all the companies in Bay Area, there is very clearly a architect slash Brahminical combined people over there, right? Who just want to go and understand deeply into technology. I want to understand this thing. I want to learn and teach, and I want to guide teams like that. They don't want to go and break their head on how do you monetize this? How much do you charge for that? How do you sell that? They will hate sales, these things. Right? But can a tech company run without sales? Microsoft, the sales division is almost 40% of the company. It's way too much. It is a big sales engine that also does technology. That's how you should think about some of the biggest companies that exist today. Can you believe? It's such a huge amount. Otherwise, all big things, you're not able to sell, you're not able to price it, you're not able to make people buy. What is the use of the product you develop? Similarly, there are also Kshatriyas who have to manage, who have to, either they manage programs or they manage, divisions or they manage people. It doesn't matter what it is. There are people who need to make things move and make things work. Right? And there are people who just need to contribute to the functioning of the rest of the Varnas. That is a natural part of life. So, the important takeaways from this verse and Prabhupada's instructions on this. One is that it is very natural for a society to have these Varnas. This is not some artificial thing. In fact, it is said that the distorted exploitation that was going on in India was a complete distortion of what is a Varnashrama system. And Prabhupada used to say, very nicely Prabhupada said, capitalism, Prabhupada said, is ruled by whom? By Vaishyas. And socialism, the other ism that exists, is ruled by whom? Not Kshatriyas, proletariat, Shudras. So Prabhupada said, all the two isms that you have today, one is guided by Vaishyas, one is guided by so-called Shudras. Then who is guiding? Where are the Brahmanas? That is why the whole society is misguided today. The whole emphasis is on who makes money. They are the leaders. And the whole society is centered around that and set up around that. Capitalism is like that. But in any society, to function properly, there have to be the head, there has to be Brahmanas. And Prabhupada also said in the same, that I'll send you a link to this conversation. It's a long conversation, but I think everybody should spend some time to read it. Very, very interesting things Prabhupada is talking about. Prabhupada said, if you are only worrying about the Brahmana or the head, and you have a problem with the legs, you have pain in the legs, you have constant pain in the legs, like I'm going through this lower back pain in the last few weeks. This head cannot function. Can it function? If you're constantly, having some severe pain in this thing, your head is focused on what is this problem with how do I solve my leg problem? So like that, all the Varnas have to function properly. Then only there can be a proper functioning society. One has to probably understand this. So the main thing is, Varnas are natural to exist. It is not that in ISKCON society or in the Hare Krishna movement, we are all supposed to be Brahmanas. That is also an incorrect understanding. Actually, all four Varnas are there in our society also. And we should be able to recognize our Varna or take help to recognize that so that we can focus on that and develop those things. In the Vedic system, thirdly, Vedic system, the three Varnas, the higher Varnas, are all supposed to be Dvijas. They are all supposed to be twice born. Doesn't mean that being twice born is limited only to the Brahmanas. Right? And the most important thing is that we should aim to be Vaishnavas. A Vaishnava is above these Varnashramas. And any one of those Varnas can go back to Godhead in this lifetime. It is not that, you need to do something else and then only you can go back. And let me see here if anybody has any questions. Let me see. I'm going to keep some 2 minutes for questions. Yes, ma'am. Anarthas, you mean? See, but think about it. What is a Kshatriya supposed to do? A Kshatriya is supposed to listen to the Brahmanas. Yeah, you are supposed to organize things, but you are supposed to listen to a Brahman and how to organize, what to organize. Immediately you have to learn to be subservient to somebody. Right? And what is a Kshatriya's duty? Kshatriya's duty is to serve the whole society. Some problem is there, something, first person who jumps, Kshatriya should jump in the front of this thing and solve the problem. They are supposed to organize the society in such a way that the rest of the society can function peacefully. It's a very difficult job, very stressful job. By nature, if you go and see the history of the world, even in the Vedic system, the Kshatriyas go through huge upheavals in life. Suddenly one day somebody will attack, this thing, you might even get defeated, then you have to go into hiding and come back and this thing. So it's a very chaotic lifestyle. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Indra's situation, again, we should be very careful when we talk about exalted this thing. But as evidenced in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Indra exhibited many times a lack of understanding of the highest level and resulted in a lot of catastrophic situations for himself and for the rest of the society. So, I don't think any Varna is a limitation to practice any of those qualities that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks in his Shishtashtaka. That's why it is so important for us to keep going back to the only 8 verses that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ever wrote. All the Varnas should practice Trunadapi, Sunichena, Tarorapi, Sahishnuna, Amanina, Manadina, Martani, Kirtaniya, Sadahari. All the 4 Varnas must be careful about Janam, Sundarim, Kavitam, Jagadisha Kamaye. Oh, it may be more prominent in a Kshatriya situation, but any one of those Varnas can fall into this trap. In fact, you said a Shudra is easy. Typically, a person born in a Shudra mindset The biggest challenge for them is not to get caught into sense gratification. The natural tendency is, I want to take life easy, and they get caught up in sense gratification. And then what happens? The human form of life, which is meant for a higher purpose, gets misused. Okay. We'll stop here. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Bol Premanand.
Govindam Adi Purusham